He says it with a straight face. My son, my own kid. I hear the words like a slap across the jaw, in front of his mother and her smug new husband. I feel my hand tighten on the countertop. I don't flinch. I don't fight. I just nod, because this isn't the moment I lose. It's the moment I begin. Owen stands there, 17 years old, looking at me like I'm a stranger, like I'm nobody. His mother, Monica, watches with barely hidden satisfaction. Her new husband, Richard, adjusts his expensive watch. They think they've won. They think they've finally broken me. But they don't know what I know. They don't know what I've been hiding all these years. They don't know that every insult, every cruel word, every attempt to erase me from my son's life has been carefully documented. I've been silent. I've been patient. And now, as Owen tells me he's ashamed to call me his father, I realize the time for silence is almost over. The truth is coming. And when it does, everything will change. My name is Neil Patterson. I'm 42 years old. I've been a mechanic for 20 years, and I've been a single father for 13 of those years. Owen was 4 when Monica left us. She walked out on a Tuesday morning without warning, without explanation. Just a note on the kitchen table saying she needed to find herself. I became everything to Owen overnight. I learned to braid hair from YouTube videos. I learned to cook more than just sandwiches and cereal. I attended every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every soccer game. I worked double shifts at the garage to keep our small apartment warm and our fridge full. There were nights I survived on 3 hours of sleep. There were times I cried in the shower because I didn't know if I was doing it right. But I never gave up. I never walked away. For 9 years, it was just me and Owen against the world. And we were happy. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our weekend pancake tradition. Then Monica came back, rich, married, and suddenly very interested in being a mother again. It started slowly at first. Monica called one day, out of nowhere, asking to see Owen. My lawyer advised against it, but I thought it was the right thing to do. Every kid deserves to know their mother, right? That's what I told myself. So I agreed to supervised visits, then weekends, then holidays. Monica lived in a big house across town with Richard, her new husband. He worked in finance, drove a luxury car, and wore suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent. At first, Owen was cautious around her. He remembered the absence, the empty chair at his birthday parties, the questions about why other kids had moms, and he didn't. But Monica was smart. She came armed with gifts, video games, designer sneakers, a new phone. She took him to restaurants I couldn't afford. She let him stay up late, skip homework, do whatever he wanted. And slowly, I watched my son start to change. The kid who used to help me organize tools in the garage started complaining about getting his hands dirty. The boy who understood we had to budget started asking why we couldn't live like Mom did. I still remember the first time he called me Neil instead of Dad. We were at a school event, and Monica was there with Richard. Owen introduced me to a teacher, and he said, "This is Neil. Just Neil. Not Dad. Not my father. Just my first name, like I was a stranger or a distant uncle." The teacher looked confused, glancing between us. Monica stood a few feet away, sunglasses perched on her head despite being indoors, and I swear I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. She was enjoying this. She was proud of what she'd done. I didn't correct him. I didn't make a scene. I just smiled at the teacher and said it was nice to meet her. But inside, something broke. That night, I started a folder on my computer. I labeled it Records. I began saving every text message, every email, every communication with Monica. I documented every visit, every phone call, every promise she made and broke. I didn't know why yet. I just knew I needed to protect myself. And more importantly, I needed to protect Owen from whatever game she was playing. This wasn't the first time Monica had tried to rewrite history. 6 years ago, when she first tried to get joint custody, she lied in court. She told the judge I had anger issues, that I scared Owen, that she left because she feared for her safety. None of it was true. I'd never raised my hand to her or anyone. I'd never even raised my voice around Owen. But the accusation was enough. I had to go through court-ordered evaluations. I had to see a therapist and get certified that I wasn't a danger. I had to have supervised visits with my own son for 3 months while they investigated. The whole process cost me thousands in legal fees and nearly destroyed me emotionally. In the end, the judge saw through her lies. The evaluations cleared me. I kept custody, but the damage was done. Monica's accusations were in the court record forever, and she faced no consequences for lying. She walked away clean, disappeared for another 3 years, and I never told Owen about any of it. I didn't want to poison his view of his mother. I didn't want him to carry that weight. I wanted to be the bigger person. Now I wonder if that was my biggest mistake. There are things Owen doesn't know. Things I've kept from him to protect Monica's image. When Owen was a baby, Monica abandoned us for 3 years straight. She didn't just leave physically. She disappeared completely. No calls, no birthday cards, no child support, nothing. I was the one who changed every diaper, who stayed up through every fever, who rushed him to the hospital when he had seizures at 18 months old. I held him through the scariest night of my life while doctors ran tests. I worked 3 jobs to afford his medication. I missed meals so he could eat. I wore the same worn-out jacket for 5 winters because every spare dollar went to keeping him healthy, safe, and happy. Monica didn't come back until her grandmother died and left her a substantial inheritance. Suddenly, with money in her pocket, she remembered she had a son. But I never told Owen any of this. I let him believe his mother had always cared, had always wanted to be there. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was protecting him from pain. Instead, I was setting myself up to be the villain in a story where I was actually the hero. The breaking point came during Owen's 16th birthday. I planned a small celebration at home, just the 2 of us and a few of his friends. I'd ordered his favorite cake and saved up for the video game he'd been wanting. But 2 days before his actual birthday, Owen posted a photo on social media. He was at an upscale steakhouse with Monica and Richard. The caption read, "Early birthday dinner with the real role models in my life." The real role models. I stared at that phrase for an hour. The real role models. Not the man who raised him alone. Not the father who sacrificed everything. The real role models were the people who bought him things and let him do whatever he wanted. When his actual birthday came, Owen went to Monica's house instead. He didn't even tell me he wasn't coming home. I found out from his text, "Staying at Mom's this weekend. She's throwing me a real party." A real party. Like the 13 birthdays I'd celebrated with him meant nothing. That night, I sat alone in our apartment. I'd already bought the cake. I put a single candle in it, lit it, and blew it out by myself. That was the night I knew I had to do more than just document. I had to act. Monica started making moves to erase me completely. I found out when Owen's school counselor called me, confused. "Mr. Patterson, there seems to be some confusion about custody arrangements. We were informed that Monica Patterson has primary custody and should be listed as the primary contact." My blood ran cold. "That's not true," I said calmly. "I have primary custody. That hasn't changed." The counselor apologized. Apparently, Monica had come in with official-looking documents and convinced the school administration that the custody arrangement had been modified. She'd changed Owen's emergency contacts, signed herself up for all school communications, and tried to have my name removed from school records entirely. I had to go down to the school in person with the actual custody agreement to prove she was lying. The school apologized profusely, but the damage was already done. Monica had shown them that she could manipulate the system, create false realities, and get people to believe her. She was testing the waters, seeing how far she could go, and she was getting bolder. I realized then that this wasn't just about turning Owen against me. She wanted to legally erase me from his life. I didn't confront Monica. Not yet. Instead, I called my lawyer, James Chun, who'd helped me during the first custody battle. We met at his office on a Saturday morning. I brought everything. Printed emails, text message logs, medical records, school communications, bank statements showing child support payments Monica had never made. James spread the documents across his desk, studying them carefully. "Neil," he said finally, "this is a clear pattern of parental alienation. But more than that, she's committed fraud. Those fake custody papers she showed the school, that's a crime." We reviewed the custody agreement line by line. James requested official records from the court, Owen's therapy sessions from years ago, attendance records, visitation logs. He built a timeline that showed exactly how Monica had systematically tried to push me out of Owen's life. "We're not going to fight fire with fire," James told me. "We're going to fight fire with truth. Keep documenting everything. Don't react. Don't engage. Let her keep making mistakes." So I did exactly that. I became a silent observer in my own life, watching and waiting. Monica began poisoning Owen's mind with lies about money. She told him I was selfish, that I was withholding funds that should be spent on him. Owen confronted me one evening, angry and hurt. "Mom says you have money saved, but you won't buy me a car. She says you're punishing me because I spend time with her." I took a breath before responding. "Owen, I do have money saved. It's for your college education. And yes, I could buy you a car, but I think you should earn it. Get a part-time job, save half, and I'll match it." His face twisted with anger. "That's exactly what she said you'd say. You're so controlling. Richard bought his son a car when he turned 16. Why can't you just be normal?" Normal. He wanted me to be normal like Richard, the man who'd known him for less than 2 years. I'd raised him for 13 years, and somehow I was the unreasonable one. "I'm not trying to control you," I said quietly. "I'm trying to teach you responsibility. There's a difference." But he didn't want to hear it. He stormed out, and later that night, I heard him on the phone with Monica complaining about me. She was winning, and I was losing the son I'd given everything for. 2 months after his 16th birthday, Owen told me he wanted to move in with Monica. "It'll be better for my future," he said, repeating words I knew weren't his own. "Mom says I should be in a better school district. She says she can give me opportunities you can't." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him everything. About how she abandoned him. About her lies in court. About how she'd done nothing while I built his entire life from scratch. But I didn't. "If that's what you want," I said instead, my voice steady despite my breaking heart, "I'll help you pack." We spent a Sunday afternoon putting his life into boxes. His clothes. His books. The PlayStation I'd saved for months to buy him. He moved through the apartment mechanically, not meeting my eyes. When everything was loaded into Monica's car, Owen stood in the doorway. "Thanks for helping," he said stiffly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Then he left. I closed the door and stood in the silent apartment. His empty room stared back at me. I sat on his bed and finally let myself cry. But even through the tears, I knew this wasn't over. I let him go, but I hadn't given up. Not even close. There were things about Richard that Monica didn't want anyone to know. Things I discovered through a private investigator I knew from my mechanic days. His name was Marcus, and he owed me a favor from years back when I'd fix his car for free during a rough patch. I called him that favor. "I need you to look into someone for me," I told Marcus. "Richard Caldwell. He's my ex-wife's new husband." It took Marcus 6 weeks, but he found everything. Richard had 2 prior restraining orders against him. The first was from a coworker who accused him of harassment and stalking behavior at his previous job. The second was from his ex-wife, who'd filed for protection after he showed up at her home repeatedly after their divorce, refusing to accept that the relationship was over. Monica had somehow gotten these records sealed or hidden during their marriage proceedings. But Marcus had connections. He got me copies of everything. Court documents, police reports, testimony from the ex-wife describing Richard's controlling behavior and explosive temper. This was the real role model Owen was living with. A man with a history of harassment and stalking. A man who couldn't handle rejection or boundaries. And Monica had brought this man into my son's life without telling me any of this. I didn't go public with the information about Richard. Not yet. Instead, I watched and waited. I let Monica and Richard get comfortable. I let them think they'd won. And they did exactly what I expected. They got sloppy. Monica started openly bad-mouthing me to Owen. She called me bitter and jealous in front of him. She told him I couldn't handle her moving on, that I was stuck in the past while she'd build a new life. Richard joined in, offering Owen unsolicited advice about what real men do and how I'd failed as a father. Owen absorbed it all, every cruel word, every twisted narrative. He stopped answering my calls. He ignored my texts. When I showed up at his school to watch a soccer game, he pretended not to see me in the stands. But what they didn't know was that I was collecting everything. Every nasty text Monica sent. Every voicemail where she contradicted herself. Every email where she made false claims. I even started recording our phone conversations after consulting with James, who confirmed it was legal in our state with one-party consent. I was building an ironclad case, and they had no idea what was coming. Thanksgiving came. Owen agreed to have dinner with me, though Monica had made it clear she expected him back by 7 o'clock. He arrived late, barely greeting me before sitting at the table. I'd cooked all his favorites, turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes, the cranberry sauce he used to help me make when he was little. We ate in uncomfortable silence for a while. Then Owen spoke. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked, not looking up from his plate. "Regret what?" "Not being more successful. Not giving me a better life." The words hit like a punch to the gut. I set down my fork and looked at him. "Owen, I've never regretted the life I built for us. I regret not showing you what success really means. It's not about money or big houses. It's about showing up. It's about keeping promises. It's about love that doesn't disappear when things get hard." He didn't respond. He finished eating quickly and left early, barely saying goodbye. But as he walked out, I noticed he took the leftover apple pie I'd made, his favorite. He took the whole container without asking. That small gesture told me something Monica couldn't erase. Somewhere deep down, he still remembered home. He still remembered us. And that mattered. Everything changed the day Child Protective Services showed up at Monica's house. I didn't file the report. I want to make that clear. I had nothing to do with it initially. A neighbor had called. Apparently, Richard had an explosive argument with Owen that got loud enough to be heard across the street. The neighbor reported yelling, doors slamming, and what sounded like someone throwing objects. CPS had to investigate. Monica was furious. She called me, screaming into the phone. "This is your fault. You're trying to sabotage me." I didn't call CPS, I told her calmly. But if they're investigating, there must be a reason. She hung up on me. A CPS caseworker contacted me as Owen's other parent. They asked about his history, his home life with me, any concerns I had. That's when I mentioned, very carefully, that I had information about Richard's past that might be relevant to Owen's safety. I provided the restraining orders, the court documents, the police reports. All of it legal, all of it factual. The caseworker's tone changed immediately. They opened a full investigation. Monica tried to claim it was just a parenting disagreement, but CPS wasn't buying it. They filed a report, and suddenly, Monica's perfect life had a crack in it. Monica escalated. She tried to have me removed as Owen's emergency contact at school again. This time, she filed formal paperwork claiming I was unstable and a danger to Owen's well-being. She wanted sole decision-making authority over his education and medical care. But I was ready. I wrote a detailed letter to the school board, attaching every piece of legal proof I had. I included the custody agreement that clearly stated my rights. I included documentation of Monica's previous false statements to the school. I included character references from Owen's teachers, his pediatrician, and parents of his friends who'd known us for years. Then James filed an injunction. The legal filing made it clear. If Monica made one more false claim, one more attempt to violate the custody agreement, we would pursue full custody modification and she could lose her parenting time entirely. The school board ruled in my favor. Monica received a formal warning from the court. She was furious, but she was also scared. For the first time, she realized I wasn't just going to roll over. She didn't tell Owen about any of this, of course. She kept playing the victim, but the walls were closing in. Then Owen got suspended from school. Fighting. The call came to me first because I was still listed as the primary emergency contact, despite Monica's efforts. I dropped everything at the garage and rushed to the school. Owen sat in the principal's office, his knuckles bruised, his jaw tight with anger. The principal explained that Owen had punched another student during an argument in the cafeteria. "Owen's never been in a fight before," I said. "What happened?" Owen stayed silent. The principal showed me witness statements. Apparently, the other student had made a comment about Owen's family situation, and Owen had snapped. When I drove Owen home, he finally spoke. Richard said real men don't back down. He said if someone disrespects you, you make them regret it. I pulled over. I turned to look at my son. "Owen, Real men also show up. They show up every day. They don't teach kids to solve problems with violence. They teach them to be better than that. For the first time in months, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt. Confusion. Like maybe, just maybe, he was starting to see cracks in the perfect life Monica and Richard had sold him. That night, I did something I've been putting off for months. I gave Owen the folder. It was a thick manila folder stuffed with documents. Court records from when Monica lied about me. Medical records showing all the times I'd taken him to the hospital. School records proving I'd been the one attending every conference. Bank statements showing child support Monica never paid. The restraining orders against Richard. The CPS report. Everything. I didn't explain it. I didn't editorialize. I just sat on the kitchen table in front of him. When you're ready, I said quietly, read it. And if you have questions, ask me. I'll answer anything honestly. Owen stared at the folder like it might explode. He didn't touch it that night or next day. But 3 days later, at 2 in the morning, I saw the light on in his room. I walked past his door and heard crying. Soft, broken sounds that made my chest ache. I didn't go in. He needed to process this alone. He needed to see the truth with his own eyes, without me standing over his shoulder. The next morning, the folder was on my desk, carefully returned. Owen didn't say anything at breakfast, but he didn't leave either. A week later, Owen asked if he could move back home. He didn't make a big speech. He didn't apologize. He just said, I think I need to figure things out without them around. Can I come back? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Always yes. I didn't ask him what he'd read in the folder. I didn't ask what Monica and Richard had said or done. That was his story to tell when he was ready. I just helped him pack again and brought him home. His room was exactly as he'd left it. I hadn't changed a thing. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, looking at his bed, his posters, his bookshelf. Thanks for not giving up on me, he said quietly. I never could, I replied. That night, we ordered pizza and watched a movie, just like we used to. We didn't talk about Monica or Richard or any of it. We just existed together in the space we'd built, the home that had always been his, even when he'd forgotten it. Monica showed up 2 days later. I heard her car screech to a stop outside, the door slamming. Then the pounding on our apartment door. Neil, open this door right now. I opened it calmly. She stood there, her face red with rage, Richard looming behind her. You manipulative bastard. You brainwashed him. You turned my son against me. I held up my phone, already recording. I'd learned my lesson about documenting everything. Monica, you need to leave. Owen made his choice, and it wasn't about me turning him against anyone. He learned the truth. The truth? You fed him lies. You showed him fake documents. Everything in that folder is from the court or public records. If you think it's fake, we can verify it together. Right now, with a lawyer present. She faltered, realizing she had no ground to stand on. Richard stepped forward. You think you're so smart, don't you? I think I'm Owen's father, and I think this conversation is over. I closed the door. They stood outside for another minute, and then I heard Monica shouting, her voice breaking. Richard eventually led her away. I watched from the window as they drove off, her face buried in her hands. Monica didn't give up. She filed for full custody again, claiming I had alienated Owen from her and poisoned his mind against her. It was a desperate move, and we both knew it. But this time, something different happened. Owen volunteered to testify. At 17, his voice carried weight in family court. The hearing was held on a gray Tuesday morning. Monica arrived with an expensive lawyer. I arrived with James and the truth. Owen took the stand, and the judge asked him directly, Owen, where do you want to live? Owen looked at Monica. For a moment, I saw guilt flash across his face. But then he spoke calm and clear. I want to live with my dad. He's the one who's always been there. He's the one who raised me. I want to stay with him. Monica's face crumpled. Her lawyer tried to object, tried to claim Owen had been influenced. But the judge held up a hand. I'm listening to the young man, counselor. Owen continued, explaining what he'd learned about the lies, the manipulation, the false claims. He didn't trash Monica, but he didn't protect her either. He just told the truth. Then James presented our evidence. The restraining orders against Richard. The CPS report. The medical records showing my consistent involvement in Owen's life versus Monica's absence. The school records. The court transcripts from 6 years ago where Monica had lied under oath. The fake custody documents she presented to the school. Every piece of paper was a nail in the coffin of her case. The judge's expression grew darker with each revelation. Monica's lawyer tried to argue that the restraining orders were old, that people changed, that Richard had reformed. But the judge wasn't interested in excuses. Mrs. Caldwell, you've presented a pattern of deception to this court and others. You've made false claims about Mr. Patterson repeatedly. You've violated the custody agreement multiple times. You've exposed Owen to a potentially dangerous individual without disclosing his history. Monica's face went pale. Richard had already left the courtroom halfway through the proceedings, unable to face the scrutiny. She was alone at her table, her expensive lawyer shuffling papers uselessly. Owen sat in the gallery behind me, watching his mother's carefully constructed facade crumble. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired and sad for what could have been if she'd just chosen truth over ego. The judge ruled in my favor. Full custody to me, with the possibility of supervised visitation for Monica if Owen agreed. The judge was clear. Owen is nearly an adult. His wishes matter. And given the evidence presented, I see no reason to force a relationship that he doesn't want at this time. Monica was given supervised visitation rights, 2 hours every other weekend at a family therapy center, but only if Owen consented. Outside the courtroom, Monica tried to approach Owen. He stepped behind me instinctively. "Owen, please," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm still your mother. You gave that up when you lied about Dad," he said quietly. "You gave that up when you put me in danger with Richard. You gave that up when you tried to erase him from my life." She reached for him, but he stepped back. I didn't interfere. This was his moment, his choice. Monica left the courthouse alone, broken and defeated. Her perfect life, her perfect image, all of it shattered because she'd built it on lies. I drove Owen home in silence. When we got back to the apartment, he finally spoke. "I'm sorry I said I was ashamed of you." "You didn't know," I replied. "You do now. That's what matters." 3 months later, Owen and I are sitting on the small balcony of our apartment. It's a quiet evening. The city sounds distant and soft. We're just existing together, comfortable in silence the way we used to be. "I used to think you were small," Owen says suddenly. I glance at him. He's looking out at the skyline, his profile so much older than it was a year ago. "What do you mean?" "I thought small meant unsuccessful. No big house, no fancy car, no impressive job title. I thought that meant you were less than other people. Less than Richard." He pauses, and when he speaks again, his voice cracks slightly. "But you were holding everything together. The whole time I was judging you, you were protecting me. You were keeping me safe. You were being my dad." I feel my throat tighten. "I never wanted you to choose between us, Owen. I just wanted you to know the truth." He turns to look at me, and his eyes are bright with unshed tears. "I'm not ashamed anymore, Dad. I'm proud. I'm proud to be your son. I don't cry. But for the first time in 2 years, I finally breathe. Really breathe. I never needed to win. I just needed Owen to know the truth." Monica lit her own house on fire with lies and manipulation. I just stepped back and let the flames reveal what was real. Now, months later, life has found a new rhythm. Owen graduates high school in a few months. He's applied to colleges, and I've been helping him navigate financial aid and scholarships. The money I saved, the money Monica claimed I was withholding, it's going exactly where I always planned, toward his education. Monica sends texts occasionally, asking to see Owen. He hasn't responded yet. Maybe one day he will. Maybe one day they'll rebuild something. But that's his choice now, not mine. Richard is out of the picture completely. They divorced 3 months after the custody hearing. Apparently, the public exposure of his past was too much for his reputation in the finance world. Some Saturday mornings, Owen and I still make pancakes together. He's taller than me now, but he still likes the chocolate chip ones I used to make when he was little. We don't talk about Monica much. We don't need to. We're focused on the future, on healing, on rebuilding what was broken. And I've learned something important through all of this. The truth doesn't need my help to be powerful. It just needs time and patience. And Maybe on a Sunday morning, a little apple pie. Just me and my son. Finally at peace.